What is up, people? Today we are doing something that I've never done before, which is getting my bloods done. So it's 8 a.m. I'm just about to head into the clinic now, and let's get them done. And then I'm going to talk through why I am getting them done, maybe the importance about getting them done, and we'll see what the results are later on in the video. Step number 1, pee in this cup. So that is the bloods taken. It only took 2 minutes maybe for them to draw all the blood, so I got essentially a full panel check. So that is my lipids, I've got my liver checked, HbA1c, there's some markers of kidney function too, GFR, and then I've also got my hormones checked, so test, estrogen, thyroid, everything essentially. I've never really gotten my bloods done, and the reason for that being is I don't think like testing for the sake of testing just to see is really something that we should be aiming for. Realistically, you should be testing when you think that there is an issue. Okay, now my issue at the moment, it would appear to be digestive, so I'm not gonna get into too much detail but essentially my poop is not of the quality that it realistically should be, and it might indicate that I have some type of absorption issue within my gut. It doesn't, it's definitely not celiac disease, because I never get any kind of bloating, sickness or anything like that after eating bread. It doesn't seem to be anything lactose related, because again I consume a decent amount of that, and again I never really have any issues in the aftermath. It's just more so when I wake up in the morning, go to the bathroom, what's in the toilet bowl looking back at me as it could be better essentially. Okay, now this has actually been going on for God as long as I can remember, but it's really just in like the last couple of weeks I'm like, I should kind of like maybe address that. Like, I'm working with a nutritionist, I'm working with Melissa Nguyen from Performance Training, and I have support here, so why not try to get to the bottom of it? Because ultimately it can be inhibiting something to do with my strength training, my muscle gain outcomes, right? So if I'm not absorbing the food I'm putting effort into, I put a lot of effort into my diet, I eat very well, eat good quality foods, very much on point with that, but there's something going awry, and something that could clearly be improved, because ultimately your digestive health, what's in the toilet bowl, whether that's number 1 or number 2, is going to be reflective of what's going on inside you. So whether that is you assessing the color of your urine to see if you're hydrated or not hydrated, your poop or lack of poop or too much poop can also be a sign of what's going on with your actual digestive system. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to get the bloods done as well is I think going to get your bloods done when there are maybe some obvious things in your lifestyle which you can fix probably isn't the best thing to do before you get your bloods done. Getting your bloods done when you're not taking care of your stress, you're not exercising, your diet's in a mess, you're kind of going in to get something done which you're kind of going to have an idea as to what the results are going to be, right? They're not going to look good. If you are, in my case, I get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. My sleep is very consistent. I wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. I eat pretty much the same meals day to day. I've made more of a conscious effort recently to increase the amount of plant omega-3s within my diet, as opposed to just getting plant fats in my diet, as opposed to getting a lot of my fats from animal meat, as well as maybe some derivatives in some carbohydrate sources. I'm pretty consistent with my meal timing. I don't eat much processed food. I keep my stress very low. I'm rarely stressed. I'm the type of person who just, it takes a lot to phase me. I am consistent with my training. I never really miss training. I don't drink alcohol. When you're kind of doing all of these kind of stuff, the basics essentially, right? What you should be doing as a human, eating plenty of vegetables as well and fruit. But then if something is a little bit off, well then there's something going wrong with the details of what I'm doing. And myself and Melissa do think that could be related to the fiber sources. Maybe I'm having too much prebiotic foods and not enough probiotic foods, So even this week I've started to incorporate some fermented milk, or kefir I believe it's called, into my smoothie to see if that is going to help. Well, I only started yesterday. I'm going to get some kimchi as well to throw into my stir fry night. So just these kind of small dietary changes I can make that could potentially improve my gut health. But ultimately at the end of the day, we're going to get these bloods back. We're going to see what the panel says. We're going to see, like, all right, is there anything here that would maybe kind of indicate that something could be going on within my digestive system or within my organs, and then kind of come up with a plan to actually tackle that. Because yeah, look, as I said, I wouldn't have gotten this done if it wasn't for having some kind of rhyme or reason to get it done. Because testing for the sake of testing, when there is nothing going wrong, when you have your lifestyle in order, like, I don't think it's like too wise. Like, there can be a lot of issues with screening and issues of like false positives, or even the scenario at which you get your bloods done, person who's interpreting them. So yeah, look, we'll see what it is. Anyway, today is Friday and I'm going to train today, and I'm probably going to bring you my training videos until I get these bloods done.
The wolf is in the house.
Yes, he is. I saw him backstage. You already know what time it is. Time to hunt. Ooh. Oh, man.
It is Saturday lunchtime, and this is one of the tools of my arsenal that I'm going to be using to tools of my arsenal.
Sorry, it sounded like you said tools in my arsehole.
Well, it's got to be a tool to sort out my arsehole, because it's hopefully going to be something to get to the root of the digestive issues.
Please don't tell me you've been telling the internet about your digestive.
Well, I've mentioned it's why I've been getting my blood done, because this video is about getting my blood done, and this is another tool that Emma has gotten us. So this is some kimchi. Never had kimchi before. It's like one of those things that, like, when I go to an Asian restaurant, if they have kimchi, I just like take it off because I'm like, I don't know, I didn't ask for it. But anyway, I asked for it now because, again, I want to see if these additions of fermented foods have improved my digestion. We'll just keep on with digestion. But anyway, I'm having it in smoothie, and it doesn't taste any different really, because I guess like the taste of the whey, taste of the fruit, like that overpowers it. If you have this on its own, it tastes just like yogurt, I guess, or like kind of sourish milk, which I mean doesn't sound too appetizing on its own. But I have noticed already in the last couple of days since I started using it that things on the digestive front are improving. They can always be a little bit better though. But anyway, having this smoothie and having a bocadillo.
And the title of 2024, Mr. Olympia. My chest is tight.
Come on.
To our winner. And new Olympia champion. Goodness.
Yes.
That's so cute.
So that concludes the squat or leg part of today's training session. To be honest, usually I would do squats, then bench, then I do my pendulum squat. But this area was actually quite busy for once. Like usually this area is dead quiet, right? Has 2 squat racks, calibrated plates, nice bars, but there's actually somebody down here using it for once. So I had to go with the bumper plates, which, you know, look, they're still good quality plates. They're Eleiko bumper plates. Like this gym is actually incredibly well stocked. But yeah, so squat single didn't move too well. I think I've been training long enough to know to not freak out if like a single doesn't move well. Like at the end of the day, I am 7 weeks out from competition. I am fairly confident that that is not a strength issue, because again I've repped out hard in that weight before. And yeah, I think it's just like overthinking a little bit. But clean up for back offsets. Did 215 for 4. So I actually forgot to press record on that. I'll try to up on the screen. And then I said, fuck it, you know, while I'm up here, while I'm warm, I may as well just do my pendulum. I'll do my adductors, and I'm just down here doing bench. So usually I try to do my power lifts first before moving on to like accessories. But just, you know, it's early on in my fucking training block, it was more convenient to do so rather than go up there for squats, come down here for bench, and come back up again. My legs are already warm, pendulum squat's right there, may as well just fucking do it, right? I think when you're so early on in the block, and especially considering, like, you know, the pendulum squat is not really going to affect my bench press unless I was so fucking wrote off, so fatigued for doing the pendulum that like I just like had that like not a feeling of like when your nervous system just feels like completely suppressed, just feel whacked, and you feel like you should just actually just go home for the gym then. But I didn't feel that at all. I pushed the pendulum squats hard enough so that I'm failing from a muscular perspective. You know, if I was there with a spotter, I could probably get out, you know, maybe 2-3 more. But from a risk management perspective, from a fatigue management perspective, doing that and trying to push like until I essentially bottom out the machine probably won't be the best like thing for me to do, realistically, considering I'm going to be deadlifting again in 2 days. So, you know, I think when it does come to those accessories, I push them as hard as you can until you feel like, okay, I don't think I could get the next rep. Like that's going to be as like hard as you realistically need to push them. If you push them to the point where like you probably need a spotter to help you with force reps, it's probably a little bit too hard for powerlifting considering the rest of your program. literally get through my top set, and I have the smallest cut there. Fucking face tracking. Turn on face track. You can see a very, very small cut there on my finger. I fucking hate deadlifting with straps, but I'm gonna have to do it, because if this happens during the session, if I continue to deadlift with my hand like this, it's just gonna make it worse, and then by the time I deadlift next week, I won't be able to deadlift. So I gotta suck it up and just get into it anyway. But I'm actually really kind of happy with how that moves. 10 kilo up from last week, and to be honest, I had a bit of anxiety pretty much like all day leading into the session because of last week when I did kind of like hurt my back. And like, I don't know if anybody has this, but like when you're kind of like anxious about hurting an area, and like the leading up to maybe the event where you're kind of anxious about hurting it, like you kind of feel like this like phantom pain. Like all day I kind of felt like this like phantom pain that wasn't really there, but I felt like I was just thinking about it so much that like it was on my brain, and as a result of being on my brain, you know, so much of the pain experience can be created within your brain, and I think it's just like feeling it. Whereas, you know, going through those warm-ups there felt class, everything felt on, I felt really tight, kind of getting into my wedge. A bit of issue there with the kind of grip starting to slip on that second rep, which is obviously a little bit annoying, but I'm going to say it's because the bar is cutting into my fingers. Look, moved well, that's the main thing. So on to my back offs now for sixes. So it is Wednesday this morning, and I pretty much spend like the first 30 minutes of my Wednesdays, like when I get into my office, just kind of doing my check-in. So I have to check in with John, I have to check in with Melissa. So Melissa check-in is just like have my data tracker filled out, all my nutrition information, and she also has Google form. And then with John, it's just I upload my training videos, make sure I have my training log filled out, and then send him an email. And you'll see here, these are like all of my training videos really since I started with John. And this is something I get a lot of my clients to do too, is just like, you know, if especially powerlifters, like make everything into a folder, which is easy to access, easy to see. You know, you can see all the different kind of weeks here too. And when I click into any of these weeks here, I can see what days I have logged. And then I can also see, okay, what are the lifts versus just having a collection of videos that are untitled. And you're like, I'm not quite sure what weight that was. You know, I have stuff from when I was working with Dav too in abs here. I have pretty much all of my kind of training here. Like I've got my nationals prep here. And then as well, I have all my prep check-in pictures. So these are all my check-in pictures from prep, all dated with the date, of course, my body weight, have all my kind of stage pictures too. And like this is like my kind of like hub of like everything to do with me in my process. Here is my check-in, the first ever kind of check-in sheets that I was really kind of doing. And this was when I was working with Brian from Triage. And you see here, have pretty much from 2021 logged. So I've been pretty much tracking in my spreadsheets since 2021 at the very earliest, which is 4 years now. I wish I had information from when I was, in my kind of earlier years of training, because it's nice to look back on like where you kind of started and like the progress that you've been making to date. Because I think that's one thing that like people find it very difficult to do when they're not tracking, is like being able to actually kind of recognize like how much progress they've made since a given time point. Like if you have been training for like, a couple of years and you don't have any like progress pictures, like you don't have any data collected, like it's the data collection is more so for making good training decisions, but like just to be able to kind of reflect on, I've made a substantial amount of progress since X point in time. It's something to keep you like both grounded from where you came from and being able to relate to people who are maybe at the early point of their journey. Like I could look back on my kind of training logs and my actual written diaries, because I've been keeping written diaries since 2014. It's 10 years now I've been writing down and planning out my training. And I'm going to look back on those and see some of the mistakes I was making, see some of the, like, maybe kind of weird exercise selections, weird volume selections, weird practices that I was doing. I can do the exact same in my MyFitnessPal. I've been tracking food since 2013. And it serves a really good purpose, again, as I mentioned, to look back and be like, this is where I started, this is where I am right now, and being able to be really, really proud of that process. So yeah, no matter where you are within your journey, I absolutely advise just start logging everything, okay? Because like you will be so happy that you did. And you know what? I can look back on any of these folders here and I have like a load of selections of training programs that have worked for me, that haven't worked for me. And like a lot of this process as well has inspired my own kind of coaching process, because I've went through so many different training systems. I've done so many different approaches. I've done so many different diets, so many different training blocks, so many different competitions, that it kind of, outside of, the actual education that I do, it's served me so well as a coach, because I've also been implementing all this stuff too. And there's a big difference between reading something and trying to apply it and having applied it, as well as having the actual kind of information behind it. That makes it so much more effective when it does come to coaching. The blood tests are back, and you'd be glad to know that I seem to be perfectly healthy, which is good. I didn't get my blood test hoping that I'd find something wrong with me. I was kind of hoping that maybe I'd find something that would maybe kind of give me some suggestion as to why my digestion is not the way I'd like it to be, okay? Now, I did get pretty much like full lab panel done. So I got my blood tested, got my kidneys tested, got my liver function tested, got my urine sample done, tested my hormones, and they all seem to be in pretty good nick. So I'll kind of put the actual results up on the screen there for you to have a gawk at. There's only some things that were a little bit abnormal. Okay, so when we looked at my liver function, for example, with my liver function, I have high levels of AST. So AST, it is a liver enzyme, and this can be often elevated in people who train quite hard or have delayed onset muscle soreness, because AST cells can also be found within muscle cells. So the day I got these blood tests done, it was a Friday morning. I did a leg training session the day before, and that leg training session was the first week of that new block that I posted last week, right? So me, after doing that session the next morning, I was very, very sore that morning, very, very sore. So I'm not surprised that these levels are elevated, but also within my liver function, something that is actually quite good that it was in the lower range was my GGT levels, which do typically indicate good liver and bile function too. So bile being in good standing is really important, because it does help to emulsify fat and break it down, so that we can recycle the likes of cholesterol and excrete it as is needed. So that's good. So it means that my body is breaking down fats quite well. Other kind of good things that we saw in my blood tests were the likes of my insulin. So my insulin was in a good spot, which is a good thing for me, of course. I'm 97 kilos, I'm trying to gain muscle, I'm trying to get stronger, and ideally having good insulin function is going to be quite important, because it's helping me to essentially store nutrients and clear them out of the bloodstream as quickly as possible. If your blood glucose level are risen for too long, that can cause you to develop some issues happening, right? It can cause you to become pre-diabetic,
And it's something that you do need to kind of keep an eye on as you are, like, you know, pushing your body through these kind of bulking and cutting cycles, primarily bulking, where you're pushing your body to new heights with body weight, because that can be something that does get impaired. Some other things that we were looking at, and when I got these lab tests, I sent them over to my nutritionist, obviously. She's a registered dietitian, so she could give me some kind of good insights here as to potentially things that we should be looking out for, and, you know, anything that she would particularly be looking out for that might indicate poor digestion. One of them being C-reactive protein and creatine kinase. So C-reactive protein, for example, is a marker of inflammation. Now, if this is quite high, it can signal inflammation in different kind of tissues. Thankfully for me, it was, like, you know, pretty much like normal. Again, it's perfect, right? Because ideally, like, you know, I don't want that to be too high too long. And because it's kind of in a normal range, indicates good recovery, okay, which is great. And like a lot of these bloods, I guess, is kind of validation for the way I live my life, the kind of lifestyle I lead. I keep my stress low, manage my, I sleep pretty much the same time every single night, consistently. Sleep is very, very much prioritized, and I do try my best to, like, you know, have a really good kind of wind down routine around that, and make sure that I wake up in the morning feeling like rested. And a lot of work goes into the sleep, a lot of work goes into my diet, and making sure it's of good quality. And again, the blood tests here, they're just kind of validation of, you know, the quality of the diet, the exercise kind of regime that I do, all being beneficial towards my health. Even looking at the likes of cholesterol, which I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of a little bit worried about my cholesterol level and my blood lipids. And this is purely just for the fact that I do eat quite a bit of saturated fat. Now, I have been including more like healthy fats into my diet, more unsaturated fats. So in my diet, I have like 4 eggs per day. I eat red meat pretty much every day too. I also will have like full fat milk, chicken thighs too. So a lot of like higher fat cuts of meat. But alongside that, I do have a lot of nuts. I've started eating a ton of nuts in my diet now. In the morning time, in my dinner meal, I also include some seeds within my morning meal too. I supplement with omega-3 fish oils, and it does seem that it is paying off because my LDL cholesterol is lower than the reference range, which is great. It means then my LDL is in a good spot, because the lower this can be, the more likely it is that we are going to increase our longevity down the line and reduce our risk of cardiovascular disease. HDL cholesterol is our good cholesterol, and HDL cholesterol can be increased by increasing more unsaturated fats within the diet. So if you're looking to kind of manage these lipids, it can be a good idea to, well, number one, I think the biggest place where most people have the saturated fats within their diet, which are kind of maybe causing most of the upset or most of the increase in lipids in their blood, is mostly from saturated fat from processed foods. Obviously, eating a ton of saturated fat from meat products is probably not the best thing either long term, but if there was a saturated fat that is probably going to be more kind of worrying for your health, would probably be from processed foods. And part of that is because those processed foods are pretty quite calorically dense. They're probably driving you to eat more than your total daily calorie amount is actually allowing to, and probably causing you to gain more body fat. When you start getting more body fat and you're having poor food choices, that is when these things do start to skew. Now, if you want to bring up your HDL cholesterol, including more unsaturated fats within the diet is going to be a good thing. And my HDL cholesterol is in a healthy range, which is obviously great. And my cholesterol total is also in an optimal range, which is fantastic. So another place that we were looking at within my bloods was the hormones, right? So main things that we want to kind of like keep an eye on here are going to be things like my thyroid hormones, some of my sex hormones too, as well. Albumin can also play a role if it's too low in causing, you know, the kind of digestive issues that I have. However, my albumin is actually high, right? It's actually above the reference range. Now, the albumin being high and above the reference range is not the worst thing in the world for somebody who's like me, who has my diet, because albumin is going to be a component of protein. And when we eat a ton of protein, the levels of this can be quite high within your blood. So, you know, my protein intake being whatever, like 250 plus per day, it's naturally enough going to be quite high. And as a result, I'm probably going to be producing more albumin, or my liver is going to be producing more albumin. So then my thyroid levels were the next thing to be checked. My thyroid levels seem to be in a good place. Pretty much TSH, free T4, free T3, all in a good area, except free tea tree is actually on the lower end of the normal range, but at the same time, this is not a risk factor for me developing these particular digestive issues, because that would actually mean I'd have to have higher the reference range. I'd have to be going hyperthyroid versus hypothyroid. Hypothyroid essentially means that your metabolism is lower than it kind of should be, and that can cause you having issues with actually gaining excessive amount of weight, right? It takes less calories for you to gain weight. So me being on the kind of low end of that is, definitely something to keep an eye on. And next time I do get my blood test, I'll be curious to see where that number is, because I don't necessarily eat like a rabbit. I have pretty high amount of calories per day. I eat between 4,200 to 4,500 per day. So my sex hormones are in a good place. Estrogen, yeah, it's in a good level for my age. Total testosterone, 5.56 nanograms per mil, which is kind of mid to high range of the reference range for my age, which is class, because obviously it will make me more jacked. Free tea, bioavailability, on a good spot. Cortisol is probably another thing that you would be looking for if you're kind of checking out, all right, does this person potentially have some digestive issues caused by stress? Again, seems to be pretty much in a normal range as well. So like the HEA, also a good range. So yeah, sex hormones are very much in a kind of boring position, except for IGF-1. IGF-1 is actually above the reference range, which again, look, if I'm trying to grow, I wouldn't mind having insulin-like growth factor 1 being that little bit higher, because, anabolism and all that. However, that can be a risk factor for having some digestive issues. Now, from doing a bit of kind of research on this, having it just that tiny bit elevated, which is like let's put it in perspective, the reference range is going to be 246 and I'm 6 points out. That could just be, maybe if I got that tested the next day, maybe that'd be slightly down. And this is another thing with blood tests, right? When you get your blood test done, one of these does not tell you the entire picture of your health, right? I will need to get this done again in 6 months or a year to really have an idea, right? Because some of these, they can be a variation in your diet, they can be a variation in your life circumstance, maybe you're a little bit less stressed, maybe the sleep that you had last night wasn't great. The trend is the thing that you're most concerned with, right? Because if you're kind of getting these done semi-regularly, if you got them done once to twice per year, you see, okay, my numbers are pretty much staying the same, or they're changing drastically. If they're changing drastically, maybe that calls for you to get a retest to see, okay, is this just an outlier? But ideally, you don't necessarily want your levels to be checking all that much if they're in a good position. If they're in a position where you have these numbers, which are maybe things that you want to modulate. So if you are having some of your hormones being completely off, that could require medication, but it could also require lifestyle intervention. I've helped a number of my clients improve their blood panels simply just through lifestyle intervention, and no medication, no supplementation. I'm obviously not fucking licensed to give medical advice, but I am licensed to give lifestyle advice, diet advice, training advice. And so much of what is on your kind of blood panel can be improved just by looking after your health, by looking after stress, by looking after sleep, by looking after food intake, training hard. And I'm quite happy with how these bloods have turned out, because it is kind of exactly what I was kind of expecting really from how I live, your training. So I am going to wrap this video up here. I hope you did enjoy my little segment here going through my actual results. And I'm going to stand by what I said at the very, very start of this video. I don't think getting your bloods done just for the sake of getting your bloods done, just to see, is the right call. I think getting these done should be something that is done when you feel that there could be something off. And also, when you feel like there's something off, even though you're doing everything that you should be doing. You're managing your stress, you're getting a decent amount of sleep every night, right? You're getting at least 7 hours of sleep most nights. You're in a good place for your nutrition. You are eating mostly whole unprocessed foods, eating a lot of plants within your diet. You're not eating a ton of processed foods, not eating a ton of junk. You are eating a calorie appropriate diet. So you might be gaining weight, you might be losing weight, but you're not overdoing it on either side, right? You're not making yourself incredibly fat. You're not making yourself incredibly lean. You are training regularly. You're keeping yourself active every single day. If you can do those things, okay, your blood should be in a good spot. If you notice, still after doing all those things, that something's off. It could be digestion, it could be incredible fatigue, it could be, something just not feeling right within your body. You feel like you should be feeling better. Go get your blood done, okay? One of the quickest ways to actually kind of see, okay, how is my body actually working, is to see what's happening underneath the hood, okay? Because I will forever be somebody who is going to speak about the benefits of exercises, training, sleep management, stress management, and how that can impact your health. And we know it can have major impacts on your health, but for some people, those lifestyle interventions won't be enough, or maybe just the way they're doing them are just not going to be enough for them. And maybe it does take a blood test result being a little bit off for you to actually kind of implement that lifestyle change that you might be putting off. Whether that is eating vegetables, whether that is like lowering your processed food intake, whether that is doing a little bit more exercise, like whatever that may be, maybe that's the motivation that you need. Maybe you do need to be scared into actually kind of making change. And that's the case for some people. Some people, they'll wait until the catastrophic event happens before they take control of their health, before they take charge, which I think is fucking ridiculous, honestly. You should be looking to take care of your health first and foremost, because you only have one of them, right? Why would you not want to live it to your fullest extent and like live it being in your best body, feeling energetic, feeling like you can conquer the world every single fucking day? Like, that's the way to live life. Anyway, before I rant too much, if you feel like something's off, contact a provider who can provide a service for you. In Ireland, it can be a little bit harder. Generally, most people say you go to your GP and you can ask for bloods. If you kind of do have something wrong with you, if you feel like you have something wrong with you and you pass their test, yeah, you know what, they might refer you out, okay? Because again, as I mentioned, the last thing you want to do is don't want to go to an online clinic who potentially sells some medication, all right? They send you the lab test and they're like, oh, you seem to be on the low end of a particular range here. After one test, here's this medication that you now have to take for the rest of your life, okay? Because a lot of things that may be kind of, dished out in some like online companies, they can be things that you maybe have to take forever, right? TRT is a very, very popular one these days with guys my age. They see, my test results are low, but at the same time, they're eating like shit, they're not training, they're not sleeping well, and as all of a sudden the answer is to go on TRT versus solve the lifestyle stuff. Well, now you're just going to be having shitty lifestyle habits while taking TRT, all right? Those shitty lifestyle habits are not going to solve for all of your problems in the world. I bet you if you solve those problems first before you consider HRT, testosterone levels will improve and your life quality will improve. But look, understand people want the easy way at the same time, right? I'm going to the second rant here. That's the people going to wrap this up here. So make sure to like the video. Make sure to comment if you have any questions or if you have any kind of combative opinions. I want to hear them, all right? I want to hear some objections. I want to have some discussions because look, this is all shit that I'm open to changing my mind. There's no right or wrong way to do it. This is just my opinion on this subject matter, okay? All right, people, that's it. Hope you have a great week. I'll talk soon.